just like other restaurants, coffee houses have been ordered to close their doors to indoor dining due to the pandemic. And to talk a little bit more about that is Nathan Hamood. He's the president and director of coffee roasting operations for Detroit Oasis Coffee Roasters. Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I bet you make the best cup of coffee.
We certainly try. Certainly try.
I love that this is a family business. Do you want to give us a little bit of background as to your company and how you guys got started?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we started back in 2009 as a real small mom and pop shop that was really kind of originally started as sort of a venue for local musicians to play and for really my family at the downturn of the economy back in 2008 and 2009 to sort of, try our hand at something new. And from there, I sort of started to get really interested in really developing our coffee a bit further and sort of getting more into roasting. We started roasting coffee in-house and sort of started just bootstrapping our growth over the years.
Nate, I'm looking at you. You must have been like 12 at the time.
Yeah. I think I was 13. Yep.
I
Yep.
wasn't allowed to drink coffee until I was like at least 16.
Yep. It was certainly maybe an odd child in a way.
But it's great that it's a family affair. But you grew this business out of an economic downturn, but now we're in the middle of one like you've never
Yeah.
seen before. How are you all doing?
Sure. We're first of all trying to stay really positive and really kind of trying to push through this little by little and just sort of staying as agile and adaptive as possible. We've tried to find sort of new ways to engage with consumers. I think something that's really core to our brand is about togetherness and the togetherness of people and the communities in which we operate. So obviously that becomes difficult when we don't have so much dine in and sort of atmosphere aspect of the business. So we're trying to find really new ways to engage. And so that's come in the form of some different means. We've done some packaged bottled drinks. We've sold some items that you could purchase online or pick up in store that you could take home and use to make coffee drinks at home. We've put out some videos and some education on brewing some really great coffee at home using some of those materials that we sell, really trying to find different ways to engage. And ultimately, of course, you can still come in and get a cup to go. So, we're leaning into that, leaning into our online sales and sort of just doing what we can to kind of be scrappy and keep kind of pivoting.
And how's it going so far? Are you making it or you made it through the first round? Are
Sure.
you worried about the second round? Although
Sure.
people tend to drink a lot more coffee in the wintertime.
Winter is certainly a big time, which is sort of, it's good and bad in some ways, right? Because this would be a very big time of year for us that would sort of, be a pretty good revenue piece for even other aspects of the year. But the positive being that it is certainly a time where coffee sales are still likely to be really solid, at least even in their different capacity. So, the first shutdown was probably more drastic to our sales. This one has certainly been, notable, but we've at least gotten maybe a little bit more experience in how we navigate it now. It's at least a little less new, and we're just, figuring out how we can sort of do our part. And yes, I would say we're mostly making it. Yeah, for sure.
So, and because going in, obviously, like you said, it's about the atmosphere, and you can't offer that atmosphere.
Sure.
You worry about some of the performers, the musicians that can't play. Are you guys trying to do any virtual events with some of them?
Sure. We had done a couple live streamed virtual events early on in the shutdown, particularly with the stay at home orders, where people were at home trying to find ways to bring some of the musicians, direct to their home. We've had some of our open mic nights actually held virtually. Brian Ryborn hosts our open mic in Detroit and has been hosting a virtual one. And it's kind of cool too, because he hosts a couple other open mics in the area. And so he's been able to bring those into the same open mic and kind of build out that little community. So it's kind of a cool thing.
In some ways, do you feel like you're actually getting to know your customers more? You're building a tighter knit community?
It's interesting because we're learning, different things about consumers. We're learning different things about different consumers. We're seeing levels of support and appreciation from consumers that I think is really encouraging to us for sure. And I think in trying to find new ways to connect, I think there are some points where we can find some certainly positive engagement in that.
So I know so many businesses are also trying to utilize some of these grants to be able to do outdoor spaces. Is that even an option for you and your team at some of your locations? And if so, have you been able to even get some of the grants?
So we haven't really leaned too much into outdoor seating. For us, with where our locations are, we have locations in downtown areas where there isn't a ton of space out front to do that seating. We also do, worry about how we would do it in a way that we would feel really great about in terms of safety. It would still feel like it's somewhat close proximity to us, would feel a little bit too much like dine-in to us.
So with that, what do you think were you surprised, by the way, that I think so many people saw this pause coming. Were you surprised it got extended?
I was not actually. We had sort of done our planning based on the assumption that it was going to be extended. From looking at what sort of metrics were going to be analyzed before making the decision to extend or end the pause, I didn't quite see that sort of change happening in such a short period of time. So we were anticipating an extension for sure. And it started making a lot of plans actually for even what we'd be doing this week and next week under that assumption.
Yeah, I pretty much figured because when you said before, we will give businesses enough time to make the shift. And so when we didn't hear, it was like, well, they have to understand you don't just, call up a bunch of employees and say, hey, come back to work tomorrow and, have that food supply there. But so, yeah, a lot of people were able to anticipate that the pause was coming.
Sure.
If it doesn't end on the 20th, how long do you think you and your locations can survive?
We'll survive really as long as we need to. I think I feel like a very resilient company. I think, we came out of an economic downturn, and that's how we got our start. In some ways in those days, it was probably a little bit easier to operate in an economic downturn because realistically, our numbers weren't great to start with, right? Right in those very early days. So of course we were scrappy. We were scrappy by nature. As we've grown as a company, I think there are a lot of new obstacles that present themselves. And this is, of course, a very different type of economic downturn, one that there isn't a lot of, real history or practice in this type of thing. But I think that sort of scrappiness and sort of entrepreneurial creativity and drive, I think, is something that still just runs through this company. And I think we'll do sort of whatever we need to just kind of keep adapting and do what we can to, help slow the spread while still keeping ourselves alive here.
And with that, and in that spirit, what are some of the changes that you've made that you think may stick around post-pandemic if we ever get there?
Sure. So our online sales, for one, are something that we really hadn't leaned into much before the pandemic. 2020 was a year that we did actually plan on expanding our online presence. We had obviously planned on expanding it very differently than we ended up having to, on a very different timeline than we ended up having to. But that's something that's actually been a really strong piece of our business now that I would like to continue to grow even after the pandemic, for sure.
Well, that's good to know. So when you see the news about the vaccine,
Mhm.
does it give you hope?
It certainly does. Yeah, I mean, it certainly does. I think it's pretty amazing to see what our scientific and medical community have been able to do in such a short time. And I hope and have the highest hopes that they can get it to market safely, effectively, and quickly. And that hopefully there's we're not too far from that other side here.
And if you can just hold on, because I do think when we get to the other side, people are going to be so eager to get back to life. They'll definitely appreciate those moments of going to the coffee house and knowing the name of, the person working behind the counter and being able to sit down and, meet with friends and listen to music. So just hold on.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a lot we sort of take for granted in our day to day that I don't think we will after this.
Very much so. Gratitude for the little things. Quickly, Nate, before we let you go, though, do you want to give us your location sites and also your your online website as well? So if people want to try their hands at trying to make their own coffee, good luck to you. But in case they do.
Absolutely, yeah, and we provide all sorts of materials and try to help in whatever ways we can to make great coffee at home too. So yeah, we have a store in Rochester that's right in downtown Rochester on Main Street. We have a store in Royal Oak, again right on Main Street in Royal Oak, over by 11 in Maine, and then we have a store in Detroit, right downtown in Capitol Park, which is like State and Griswold Street. And then our online store is www.docr.coffee.
Well, great. It's always great having you back on the show. Best of luck to you and your family in surviving this. And it's just around the corner. Hang on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.